The views expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those in the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Welcome to this edition of Insights, everybody. I'm your host, Marissa McKay, and I'm joined here by the Besser Museum staff at the Besser Museum in Alpena. Hi, Chris. How are you doing?
Oh, great. Thanks for coming.
Good. So first of all, we're sitting right in front of this wall, this very big tribute to Jesse Besser. So I think the community probably knows who he is by now, but why don't you give a little explanation just about this man who ended up founding this museum?
Well, Jesse Besser was the owner of the Besser Block Company, that's right down the road, and in about 1963, he approached the then superintendent of the public school system, Dr. Wilson, and asked if he thought Alpena would benefit from having a museum. And so those two men, with a couple other community leaders, got together and founded the Besser Museum.
Right, and so you mentioned kids. I mean, clearly the superintendent of the school was involved, then kids were always thought of as people who would benefit from this museum.
Definitely, and actually kids of all ages. Alpena Public School and the college used to be together as one entity, and so when they established this museum, the intent was to be a learning environment, a living museum, and really a classroom and extension of the public school system, and to offer experiences for children to learn about their regional history, about art, and about science. Two of the things that Jesse Besser really wanted to see at the museum were the planetarium and the pendulum. And so that's something that the community got behind and helped establish those two items here. And then we also, one of the first collections that came into the museum was the Halteeners Native American artifact of prehistoric and historic items. Many of them were collected right here from Northeast Michigan, and others from around surrounding states like Indiana, Ohio, the Carolinas. So we have one of the largest, most impressive collections of Native American artifacts also. The other focus that they wanted is arts. So they, back in the day, held art workshops, but now we focus on exhibiting Northeast Michigan artists. And then we also have a very extensive collection of fine art. Some pieces in our collection would be Dalí's, Renoir,
Yeah, exactly. You know, these very exquisite artists from across the pond, if you will, are here in Alpena, and I don't think a lot of people really can appreciate that or really know that that's here. And so you mentioned one of the exhibits that we're going to talk about later on, which is a local artist who is now world renowned and known across the country.
Yes, Irv Lewandowski will be exhibiting all summer. He grew up and graduated from Posen. He was a local businessman. Focusing on art through those years, but really extensively in this last couple years. And he is now gaining national recognition with his art. So we are very fortunate and pleased to be having his waterscapes on display. And just the exhibit opens May 11th. It will run all summer, and that's something that I would invite everyone in to see. It's just amazing. One of the things that we are focusing on and really are proud to continue this tradition is celebrating the accomplishments of people who lived in Northeast Michigan, not just artists like Irv Lewandowski, but those that go through, say, World Concrete Tech Center. We are sitting in front of the Jesse Besser exhibit, and he's known for making the cement block machine. So a lot of people don't understand that they're not making cement blocks, they're making the machines that make the cement blocks. But we also have on site now our new Lafarge Fossil Park. And that was a great addition to the Besser Museum because that focuses on the cement industry. So Alpena has always been well known as producing cement, some of the finest cement. Alpena Cement has gone to make the Detroit Tiger Stadium, the Lion Stadium, the Detroit Airport. So these are things we can be proud of and boast about. But also in that cement are Devonian fossils from 350 million years ago.
Right.
So many of the people living in this community were not aware of that either until we started this exhibit. And we've put through thousands of kids, not just elementary kids, but the college comes over and uses the cement or the Lafarge Fossil Park as a lab. And we have tourists from all over Michigan and beyond coming to the Lafarge Fossil Park and learning about this unique feature.
Right.
So it's really something that ties in all the industries, the cement block making machine, the cement Lafarge materials, the natural resources, and then the fossils, the geology part of it.
Right, and I think you bring up a good point. I mean, the people from Brooklyn who are going to be building the new World Trade Center, which, you know, it's not going to be replacing that, obviously, but they came here to learn about our concrete technology. So I think that you bring up a good point in terms of Alpena really could be considered sort of a microcosm of bigger things, you know, like not even just with cement technology, but also with the fossils. And, you know, you mentioned things for millions of years ago that people probably don't realize is in their backyards. And so why do you think it's so important for kids now to really take advantage of something like this? I mean, Alpena is isolated from Detroit, from some of the other arts and cultures down there. So why do you think that this is just really such a benefit to Northeast Michigan?
Well, one, I think that the children that go through the public school system should know what is in their backyard, what natural resources are in their community and how it's impacted the world. A lot of times, like you say, we are so remote. And so you hear like, oh, can't wait to get out of here, or there's nothing to do here. And so when they do leave, if they choose to leave, they should leave with a sense of pride of where they've come from. And the fact that Northeast Michigan might be remote, but it's very unique. To be able to say we've had a Jesse Besser that grew up here, that established a world headquarter, that went throughout all of the world selling cement block machines. Then to say we have a cement plant that is making cement that is being requested for some of these major projects, and that we have a community college that offers programming to learn concrete cement technology is pretty significant. Children also, I believe, need to understand that where the natural resources come from. If you can't grow it, you have to mine it. So where are these products coming from? So making them aware of their environment, I think, is important. And it's pretty significant that back almost 50 years ago, Jesse Besser, along with
industrialist, if you will.
Exactly. Along with some other founding fathers, established this museum to be a learning, living institution, and it's still serving that mission today.
Right, and we talked a lot about what kids do here, and clearly during the school year, I'm sure you see hundreds come through with field trips, thousands, right, not even just from Alpena, but from some of the surrounding areas, from the college. So in the summertime, they're not here with their classmates or perhaps with their schools, but why do you still recommend parents and their families, or I guess recommend and also encourage people to come here in the summers as well?
Well, what we're finding with the change in our programming and in our exhibits, that we truly are a family-friendly environment. And so we're seeing all ages share these experiences together. So it's multi-generational. We get a lot of grandparents that bring in their grandchildren, and they're going out to the fossil park and discovering these new fossils. They're enjoying the planetarium together. They are looking at our natural wildlife exhibit that features the animals that you will find in your backyard. And then we also have established a family activity room in our lower level. So we're not really a hands-on children's museum, but we've extended some of the activities that they can do in that family activity room. And what's interesting is when people come in, they're thinking they're going to do a quick, tour of an old museum, and they're blown away by what we have here. And are spending hours. We have a nature walk in our backyard. We have 5 historic buildings on site. The stroll through the Avenue of Shops takes you through old Alpena.
Right, what used to be.
Right, and it was really fun the other day. Someone from downstate came for the first time and looked and said, you have like a mini Greenfield village in your backyard. And we do. And so it's just really, you don't have to travel too far to get some of those experiences that you would get at the Detroit museums.
Exactly.
Or, so yeah.
Okay, great. And to kind of culture the kids when they're young and get them really excited, like you said, about being prideful of where they come from so that when they do leave, if they choose to, they can kind of take those experiences with them to different areas.
Yes.
Okay, well, thanks, Chris, for joining me today. Next, we're going to hear from another member of the staff who's going to talk specifics about what kinds of exhibits you can see here this summer. Welcome back to Insights, everybody. Joining me now is Randy Schultz, who is in charge of the exhibits and facilities here at Besser Museum. So, Randy, quite a big job. You probably have a lot going on.
We do. What's really amazing in the world of the museum, when you take two aspects, facilities and you take exhibits, you put them together, they sort of have to go hand in hand,
Right.
but it gets out of control real fast. Considering facilities is everything from the front curb, covering our whole 8.5 acres.
Right.
Then you get inside the building and set the exhibit. So let's say there's never 2 days the same, and you're usually not bored.
Right, probably just like our job, I'm sure, with you know, kind of the same. No,
Yep.
no 2 days are the same. But so we're currently in the room that is a rotating exhibit, correct? You don't have the same thing here all the time.
That's correct. We actually have two rotating exhibit galleries. One is Truffle Gallery, one is Wilson. Due to demand from local artists, which is we love to support, we've opened up another gallery around the center of the building. We do keep those exhibits. I'd like to try to set them for about 3 months.
Okay.
That gives an opportunity for people in town several weekends to come in and view it. But people like change, so we try to switch them up and change. We do have permanent exhibits that are still very popular, that people want to come in and see the old Avenue shops. What we're inspired to do on that is sort of give the permanent exhibits a facelift.
Right.
In the Avenue shops, we try to change the window dressings, we try to change what's displayed inside of the buildings. Same with our outbuildings, with the schools, the cabin, and the bank. You sort of change it up, so yeah, they're still there, but you know, it's usually something new that you see.
Right, especially if you have some returning patrons to the museum, then they get to see something different each time as well.
Exactly. You know, when you're trying to keep the local population happy and excited and stimulated with the exhibits you have to switch it up. There's some people like fine art. Some people, we just took down a wildlife exhibit. That's what they're into.
Right.
So you try to find that happy niche. It's not always easy, but we've been pretty fortunate with the local artists.
Right, and let me just ask you. I mean, this summer you guys have quite a schedule going on. And first, let's talk about the local artist that we're discussing. Chris touched on him a little bit in the first segment. A local Northeast Michigan man.
We do. It's actually a pretty amazing story. His name is Irv Lewandowski, born and raised in Posen. Sort of got in midlife, he discovered that he had quite a talent, and it's pencil, and he is now nationally known. He has exhibits all over the United States, so we're pretty fortunate to be able to display him, just to show people, hey, you know, you got talent here in Alpena, and a lot of it in the surrounding areas. Irv does a phenomenal job. Invite everybody to come down and take a look if you haven't seen any of his work. In the other gallery, we have Northeastern Michigan Artists Guild.
Okay.
What I like about them is I'm old school. I like to write poetry and read poetry. What we've been able to work out with that organization is they chose poems that they liked, and then they did a painting with the interpretation of that poem. So it sort of allows a little bit different venue for people with interest. If you like poetry,
Right.
you got it. If you like the paintings, you got it. You have that niche. It's going together.
And it kind of ties into the community having the Thunder Bay Arts Council. I mean, clearly art is a very important thing to the community of Alpena, so why not tap into that as the museum?
Absolutely, and you know, this is a small town, and you have to work together. We
Right.
support all the local artists, any of the venues, the groups, organizations, they meet here. The museum is the community's property. We're just the lucky ones to get to work here, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to put those artists' talented work, hang them on the walls.
Right, exactly. And how many pieces do we have in here at this time? How many ones did you hang? It looks like kind of a lot.
This one's quite a challenge, and what I like to do is I work very closely with the artist. When they bring him in, he had a story he wanted to tell. This is works of his from 2006 to 2013. He wanted them all up. So I did things a little bit differently. I hung them a little bit more different than I would normally do. And I believe we have about 50 plus pieces in this hall here.
Right, and like you said, it's not just throwing something up on a wall and saying, you know, here's the exhibit, but you guys really do spend some time trying to tell that story with every exhibit that you have.
It really is. I mean, you can take an exhibit as elaborate as Irv's is here, and you try to tell the story. When people come in, you want them to accept the gallery in its entirety of what you're trying to tell, but then they look at each piece.
Right.
And you sort of have to do that transaction. And I always tell the artists, I try to force feed the people that go around the room. I sort of split up their work where if you're wildlife, well, I'm going to split that wildlife up to force you to view. NEMAG's exhibit is the same exact way, right down to Paleo Joe. We have the dinosaur bones. You sort of have to. Each one has to be clever and unique enough to catch somebody's eye and catch their interest so you can tell them the rest of the story.
Definitely. And now let's touch on Paleo Joe, because that's a pretty cool thing that's coming to the museum, especially for some of our student populations who during the summer months, parents are always trying to find something to entertain their kids. And what a better way than to explore the geology and some of the fossil history that we have that's so deep here in Alpena.
It is really amazing. I had no idea when we started the fossil park how many rock hounds are in the area. And I don't say that offensively, and they take it with, they love the idea that they're rock hounds. We were very fortunate to team up with Paleo Joe, who helped set up some of the stuff. Now, what his display encompasses is some of the dinosaur bones that you normally don't get to see. That's what everybody wants to be, a bone digger when they get older, the younger kids. And it's such a great transition because you can start looking at the dinosaur bones and it leads you right out into our fossil park where you're finding 300 million-year-old fossils. That's from Alpena. We were the early ocean, and that we have the remains of that. So it's being clever like that, trying to tie in all those exhibits. It's an educational aspect. What we like to do is we don't want you to have a visit to the museum. We want you to have an experience at the museum.
Okay, and now for some of these kids too, like you said, they want to be fossil diggers. They want to be somebody who's going to find some dinosaurs one day. And so Paleo Joe is kind of doing something pretty cool where he's spending some time with the kids himself, or adults. I mean, I would want to go personally, and he'll take you out and sort of show you what he's doing.
And what's really cool is, and everything sadly has to have an expense tied to it. That has a little bit more cost factor in it, but what he's also graciously agreed to do is he will be in here in his little studio that we have set up, showing how you actually do clean and preserve and take care of. That's just your admission to the museum, and if you're a museum member, it's free. Come in, talk to this guy. He's traveled all over the world. You get that experience. So yeah, it gives kids an idea. There's a job out there really like this guy's making a living at. That's pretty cool.
Right, exactly. And getting them, like Chris had talked about, getting them interested and have them take pride in their area that they come from.
It's the one thing that I realized. I've been at the museum for 13 years, and the one thing that I think I've really grasped over that time period is when you can hold on a piece of history, you're never going to be able to duplicate that. If you can go back millions of years and hold something in your hands, and to find that, to be the first to find it, it's very exciting. If kids don't get geeked about that, there's something wrong. But yeah.
Very cool. And now just at the backyard, you essentially have a Greenfields Village in Alpena.
It's pretty cool that you mentioned that, because we've had the last few weeks, I had several people mention that came from downstate area. And actually what we're trying to do now is the blinders are off. So we're trying to basically showpiece what we have. Last year we were very fortunate with the church that we had a local group step up, and it's been repainted, decorated, and now it's in line as the Green School, so is the Maltz Bank. And actually just yesterday we had contractors here. We have some grant money come in where we're going to pour a sidewalk. So the whole backyard will be ADA compliant, sidewalks going to all the outbuildings. So yeah, we're creating Greenfield Village the 2.
Yeah, 2.0, definitely. And you guys also do hold a log cabin days this summer, so that's really an opportunity for families and kids to kind of come out and really learn more about the culture that was.
It is. When you start looking out there, Maltz Bank's one of the oldest standing buildings in Alpena. You look at the cabin, the McKay cabin, 1800s. Where do you see that kind of stuff? Exactly. And you get people, it's a step back. It's, okay, this is what we actually lived in. You didn't have the microwaves. You didn't have the flat screen TVs.
And for kids, that's all they know. So that's certainly an experience for them.
It's adding that educational component and having fun doing it.
Right, exactly, the whole mission of the museum itself.
Absolutely.
And so actually when we come back, everybody, we will hear from Amanda, another staff member here at the Besser Museum, to talk more specifics about what the museum is doing this summer and how you could get involved. Welcome back to Insights, everybody. Joining me now is Amanda, who is in charge of public relations at the museum, which is just a fancy way of you trying to get people to come here.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Basically trying to get people to come here and bringing people awareness that the museum is here to begin with. I think we're one of Alpena's best kept secrets, and that's sort of my job to make sure that we're not a secret any longer. So yeah, it's a challenging but fun job.
Right, and probably not different every day, just like Randy was saying his job is as well.
Insanely different every day. It's from the people I greet right at the front desk. People walk in the door, I'm the first face they see, and you get some of the most amazing, interesting people again, Alpena is quite awesome when
Yeah.
it comes to the people we have here, our community, and so on and so forth. So yeah,
Right.
it is a great job.
And so you also a lot of your, I mean, both Randy and Chris have talked about education and how that's such a big component of what you guys do at the museum. So regarding your job specifically, how do you work with area schools, not just in Alpena, but in the region?
This is one of our challenges is to reach to the outlying schools because we do cover 15 counties. We have a lot of schools like Sheboygan, Gaylord, up in Mackinac, Rogers City, so on and so forth, that don't always get the daily news like they
Right.
would here. So we do a lot of clever things that way with targeting the teachers specifically.
Right.
Perhaps posting. We use a lot of our website, a lot of AMA ESD. We work with them quite a
Right.
bit to try
I'm
to
sure
get the news
social
out there.
media as well.
Absolutely, nothing like Facebook.
Right, exactly.
It's insane when you can post something and 5 minutes later, 330 some people have seen it.
Right.
It's amazing.
And what is the draw really for these teachers to want to bring their students here, in your opinion?
My opinion would be hands-on. A lot of the education system I've noticed, I have a daughter in public school, is there's just not that hands-on education anymore. And one of the best ways kids learn is sensory, from touch, sight, that type of stuff. I think another great thing we do here is taking their curriculum and focusing on field trips that will hit their benchmarks because they're required to have
Right,
these
certain
benchmarks.
things.
Exactly. And we have it all, art, history, science, and we can pretty much modify anything we have to fit their benchmarks in their curriculum. So that is one of our strongest suits, I do believe. So
Definitely.
teachers pay attention to that. We can do
Right.
it all. It's pretty
Right.
cool. And I think it's an extreme value that we get into these kids and start getting them back into that hands-on learning component. Especially
Right.
with technology coming, and I'm not saying we're creating zombies, but
Right.
you
Well, you're not
nice.
saying you're not.
Exactly. It's nice to have the visual, the arts, the history, and the science right here at their fingertips.
Right, and speaking of the hands-on thing, Randy and I discussed the Paleo Joe exhibit that's come into town. So why do you think that clearly that's not for teachers because that's something during the summer, but for parents who are just looking for something to do that's not, throwing your kid in front of the TV, taking them to a movie, why is that so beneficial?
Dinosaur bones. I mean, how can we stress that enough? It's a dinosaur. We have kids running through the door. They plaster up against the glass, and they're like, oh, meat eaters!
Yeah.
I mean, they may not say, carnivore or omnivore or herbivore,
Right.
but they're getting that just in the meat eaters. Everything, besides the Paleo Joe being here, and him doing his bone cleaning demonstrations, we have our fossil park in the backyard, where kids are encouraged, families are encouraged to go out there, have a picnic. There's benches, there's wash stations, excuse me, that's a tongue twister, and they dig through the fossils, and everything they find, they get to take home. So then it becomes a pride thing, a
Right.
bragging rights. Look what I found
Right.
type of ordeal. And then that extends outside of the museum, because you can walk the beach and find the same fossils you do in our backyard.
Right.
And the kids become aware. So I think it's an amazing, just a great tie-in with having
Yeah.
Paleo Joe here, and then just to highlight, we're Devonian.
Yeah.
It's only 2 million years away from prehistoric,
Right.
but it's basically what the dinosaurs would have munched on when they kind of came around. So it's pretty cool.
Right, definitely, and like you had just mentioned, it ties into back to the community as well, which I think that's what every teacher strives to do is bring the classroom into a bigger picture. But not just students and teachers come here. I mean, you have families, you have just regular individuals coming up from downstate to visit. So I mean, clearly you have a membership, so you can talk about that.
We do.
But then, how do you just get the average person to come in here, and what benefit is that for them?
I really think it ties a lot into what Randy does with the exhibits. We have rotating exhibits. We're never a stale environment. You hear some people like, oh, I don't want to go to the museums because they're always the same. That is one thing we don't do here is stay the same. That's enticing people to come back. There's always something for everyone. If there's not this month, check next month. There will be type of thing. So that's really important that we stay fresh. We stay, constantly changing. Change is good. That's very important. In our membership base, and that's the thing too, when people sign up for a membership, it's 365 days from the day they sign up. They receive free admission, great perks. Of course, the free admission, you get the newsletter, discounts in the gift store, so on and so forth. But they also get to come and see these rotating exhibits all the time. So they can come in and grandkids, bring their grandkids in and hang out in the fossil park all day long, however long, how many times I want to.
Right.
But again, I really have to attribute a lot to the fact that we always change. And we're always touching something different, from dinosaur bones to fine art. I mean, such a scale that it's really something for everybody. So.
Right, and you also have tying industry in with the history and also in with the art as well.
Exactly.
Because Jesse Besser seems like he was more of a philanthropist in a way, not just somebody in industry.
I love that you say that because
You're correct. He built this to become an educational institution in art, history, and science. We can tie in the Lakes Lumber Limestone as kind of another one of our tags that we like to use, because the lakes was the fishing, then we had the lumbering industry, and then we went to limestone. And all of that formed Alpena, where the history of what happened once everybody started to settle down.
Right.
It's incredible, the people that formed this town. Lots of names you don't hear, and you read about, and we're like, what? That's awesome. You know, we never knew that. So it's pretty cool. And again, job's never boring because you learn something every day here too.
Right.
So it's great. But yeah.
Right, and so tell me a little bit about the summer schedule that you guys have lined up.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. Again, Paleo Joe. It's the whole dig into reading. We're collaborating with the library, other area libraries actually too, Gaylord, Mackinac, because that's the theme for this summer. So of course we have the Paleo Joe, and he's going to be doing dinosaur bone cleaning demonstrations the third Saturday of May, June, and July.
Oh, okay, great.
Actually, no. Yes, May, June, July. So that's going to be pretty cool. He'll be here again with our fossil park. We're also doing a day with Paleo Joe, where people will get to go tour all the fossil hotspots in Alpena. You're thinking Alpena has fossil hotspots? We totally do. It's incredible. It's not like, you don't have to go all the way to Montana or Mongolia to find these fossils. They're right here. So he'll be doing that. It's an all-day thing. What else? Just highlighting how cool.
The local artists, we also have that
gosh,
as
yes. We
well.
have Irv Lewandowski. He's amazing. Beautiful, beautiful artwork. He'll be up till August. And then right after that, we're going to kick off our juried art, which is a local art competition. We have Lines and Lyrics, which is an artist guild. They took this time a stanza from a poem and then interpreted it in art.
Right. And
Awesome.
Randy talked about that as well. There's something for everybody. And then
Yeah.
also the log cabin day. We
Log
talked about that a
Cabin
little
Days,
bit
yeah,
too.
that's one of my favorites. Just because you it all started with feature.
cabin. Like, oh, if you have a log
Right.
cabin. We have just turned it into a museum-wide festival.
Exactly.
There's activities, there's strawberry sundaes, there's all sorts of.
Exactly, and kind of transports people back in time a little bit. So it can
does.
really,
Absolutely.
as all three of you have said, really get the kids to kind of take pride in their town and their community a
And
little
that's, I
bit.
think, our main goal, really, community pride. That's why we're here. We're here for the community. We're the community's museum. That's what we do.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.